Welcome to the Concept 101 podcast. My name is Jules.
Daniel.
Stefan?
We are three concept artists currently working in the film and games industry, as well as the organizers of the Concept 101 event in London. In today's episodes, we'll be mainly discussing common portfolio mistakes as students. Before we start, we also have to thank the current sponsors of the Concept 101 2023 event. So a big thank you to Shark Mob, Chromatic Studio, Atom Hawk, Moon Colony, Frame Store, Forstone Partners, and Mood Visuals.
Yeah. So common portfolio mistakes for students is something that I think as once you get into the industry, it's something you both see a lot and talk a lot about.
Yeah.
Because, portfolios get sent to the companies that you work at, and you are often, asked for, if not an opinion, at least you are shown it, and things might be said, about said work, depending on the quality level of it and what people think.
Daniel is just so popular. He gets thousands of messages.
I do get quite a lot of portfolio review requests, to be fair. I'm not sure why I've gathered that reputation, but if you're listening and you would like portfolio review, I'll probably respond if you send it normally and ask nicely.
If you apply the feedback.
If you apply the feedback.
If you ask for feedback and you never ever even try a single second to apply it, then just don't ask.
Then contact Stefan. That's his job to deal with that. It's kind of like a cascade. Me first, then Jules, then Stefan after. Yeah.
I definitely need to get better at replying to these kind of messages.
But anyway, it's a really interesting topic because it's something that, is kind of all encompassing for a lot of the community of concept art. Because I would say actually the majority of the community, or at least half of the community, are people trying to get into the industry, right? Rather than professionals. So it's always a super common question. It's something that I get asked quite a lot, like what are the problems with my portfolios? And everybody else at this table also gets asked it a lot. And so we thought we would kind of address it in the podcast. And the way we're going to treat this today is we're going to each give our personal pet peeves that we see in student portfolios. And kind of go around and discuss them and just structure it a bit like that. So, Steph, you want to start? What's your most hated, the thing that would make you hunt these people down and execute them?
Every day he wakes up, he takes a knife and he has this written on the board and he just stabs it.
And then he has all of the names of the people who have this problem with their portfolios written on the other side of the knife.
I think one of the main mistakes that I would want to talk about is over-reliance on 3D assets, and with that also comes the basically sometimes don't want to say lack of creativity, but
well, you said it now.
Yeah, something like lack of creativity. I would say just
can you clarify something
not
enough
to overuse of 3D assets that are already pre-built for you.
Yes, that's the clarification I wanted.
Sketchfab.
Yeah, Sketchfab.
Online stuff. Pixel Bridge.
And you buy some KitBash 3D assets from KitBash 3D. So over-reliance on those kind of assets and not enough design process where you've designed the asset yourself and then maybe build it yourself or sketched it yourself.
Yeah.
Whatever is your process for
I think
making
this is probably
things.
the most common mistakes in today's portfolio. I did it myself. Yeah. I did it many times.
But you didn't have it as much in your student portfolio, though.
I did have it, but not that much, yeah.
Because I feel like it wasn't as big of a trend back then.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I think that's what's really interesting about it, is that it is a trend that has really upped the ante over the last 3 years.
I wonder if it's because of... I'm not going to... Well, I will say... I think,
whatever you're about to say, don't say it.
because of certain...
styles.
Okay, wait, can I
certain
say
popular styles. There are certain popular styles, very, very realistic style, which to achieve that kind of realistic style, you do technically need to use.
Yes, and there's now a lot of companies creating amazing assets.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No. I mean, if I had to design, if let's say if I had to do for work or for my personal time a Roman battle, I don't see why I wouldn't use Roman assets.
Yeah,
because that would be I think to me a bit silly to design Roman but from scratch
Yeah, when they already
when
exist
there's
and
already
someone's already made it.
Romans, you know, yeah, or
But
like
we
anything
are
historical.
yes, but we are talking here about the student portfolio.
Yes, and someone
in a
wanting to
student-
showcase design
Exactly.
skills.
So let's say you do showcase design skills through something else, right? You have one or two portfolio projects that already showcase that you have very good design skills and iteration process and cool ideas, and then you have one or two projects that are more realistic and you don't actually build the assets yourself, or you majority of them are taken from somewhere else. But you already shown that you have the design skills in other projects, and in this project you just focus on the mood. You focus on the
Well, I'm going to jump in there. I think you're wrong. I think you're totally wrong. I think
interesting.
as a student, your objective is always to show off as many skills as possible at every opportunity that you possibly can. You have to think about it like your work is going to go in front of a recruiter or in front of an art director one time, and that is your one opportunity to really impress them. I would not waste my portfolio, like, precious pages. If you have 15 pages, right, and you're going to like show somebody like, hey, I'm the best at this and you should hire me because of that, and then you spend 10 pages doing projects which are all made of pre-built assets from Sketchfab, you've just wasted 10 pages.
There is a place in your portfolio for pre-made asset stuff,
Well, okay,
but small.
Can I-
No, let's say if you want to work in movies, for example, in films,
yeah.
why not having an historical battle scene, like that's fine.
I don't know. So
That's going to be useful because
Yeah.
you might work on movies who will have that.
Let's-
But that's not going to be fine by itself. You want to show on other pieces, on most pieces you want to show.
No, because
skills.
let me say this: if you want to do a historical battle scene, right, you have choices, right? You can do a Greco-Roman fight scene or something, where the Cyprians are fighting the Roman navy or whatever, or you can say, I am going to have this specialized Roman battalion that I have engineered and they never existed, right?
Yeah.
They specialized in slinging fireballs, and they're fighting this group of barbarians from Norway who only use
bear
pitchforks
suits.
and they have bear suits or whatever, right?
Pitchforks.
That's more value. So that's why I always think that it's not that you can't use them. Of course, if you're designing a room and there's a chair that needs to be done in the background and it's just in the back of your scene, okay, use a sketch who cares? But when you have anything that could be considered a key asset, a key part of the narrative you're trying to tell, should be made by you 100% every time.
Hero assets are very important.
Yeah.
I think that kind of links to what we said in the previous podcast about VR and why VR is so good, because it just allows you to make your own assets quickly and also emphasize on design.
that's super true. Like when I start to learn Gravity Sketch is when I first time was like, oh, I can make all these assets by myself. I don't have to be great at 3D, I can just make them. But I would want to talk a little bit about, in this case, also bring my portfolio as an example, because I had a lot of projects where I made things by myself, but I worked on a project with Ricardo Lima, which was one of the projects that was around the time where I eventually got hired, or I think it was one of my better projects. And one of the things that he emphasized was like, we would build majority of the scene, but not everything. Like, for example, I built for the scenes where it's more like further away, I build all the characters. But close-ups, I didn't build the close-up characters. I just found many different models, and I found the t-shirts that I wanted, and I kind of like jigged it all together. So, but I wasn't making everything from scratch. But for example, texture-wise, I textured a lot of things. I learned how to texture the walls and how to make different things by myself.
Right. But I think there's quite a stark difference between what you're describing and what we're actually talking about, because what you're talking about is a course, which I also did, which is great, and you should go and do it if you're listening. It's a brilliant one if you want to learn about keyframing.
Or ask Stefan for PSD.
Or ask Stefan for PSD.
No, for the PDF.
Yeah. But in that course, the reason that you're not making everything and the reason that you're cutting stuff together is because the purpose of that course is to learn keyframing. It's not a portfolio course. Yeah. So I think you're comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah, but
here.
I still wanted to say that even there, I was quite creative with like majority of the things in my scene. I built them.
Well, anything that's a key asset, again, to reiterate, you should build.
Yeah,
it's
and
as simple as that.
That is something that I did.
That's your point, Stefan, is that you have used assets, although you have been trying to really keep the key elements designed and
Yeah,
like to,
yeah.
to keep. You know what? I think you just lose you lose the creativity if you use
Yeah.
like you don't use assets to make what you want.
Yeah.
You do what you want with the
Yeah, you kind of like
The problem is that a lot of people, again, because we're kind of like in this age of concept art where 3D has become so incredibly dominant, people will not design things. They will build things in 3D, and that will be the design.
that would dictate the design. So,
So-
the design
so
is going to follow
what
the
they
assets
have access to,
rather
yeah.
than the assets being made to follow the
So it's like,
original design.
oh, I'm designing my Roman Fireball Legion. What should the helmet look like? Well, it's going to look like this because that's the best sketch photo I could find. Rather than learning how to design and create something unique and original that would be better for your concept. And that's kind of the fundamental problem, is that people allow their use of assets and allow the accessibility of assets to dictate how good their work is. And I think also part of it, sorry, I'm talking for a bit long, is I think it can be a little bit elitist sometimes as well, in a way, because there are an awful lot of people who, at least I've seen portfolios of, who make work and they're using like £400 character assets and then putting the character asset in the middle of their keyframe, and everyone's going, whoa, how did you get such a detailed character asset? It's like, well, because... Well, they're like, oh, well, I lit it
because
really
I
well.
just bought it.
Yeah, and it's like, well, no, it's because you spent £500 on a character asset.
There's also a race of realism. Everyone wants to be so realistic, and sometimes they also make. I mean, again, I've done those mistakes. So it's like making a very boring-ish scene, like with a few soldiers or something like this, but having it very realistic.
Yeah.
And so the wow effect isn't the design, it's not the keyframe really, it's just that it looks very realistic.
Yeah, which is not really part of, I think, many games or films.
Yeah. I don't know about games because I never worked on a game. But for films, they would not hire you.
I think the one game
You just need good design.
I think the one game that does value that was the game that did like the Until Dawn or something. Like they have like some creatures there as well, right? Which have to be designed, but they value like a great eye for cinematography, I think, and stuff like that.
No, but a great eye for
But
cinematography.
you still need a great eye of cinematography to work in film.
I mean,
It's
you
just
need
that it
a great
doesn't-
eye.
Yeah, because otherwise,
Yeah.
I mean, what me and Jules are saying is that it doesn't have to be hyper realistic
Yeah.
to work. It's the problem with people being like, again, to go back to this Roman concept, to be like, oh, well, my work will be worse if it doesn't look as good as this £500 character model that XYZ artist put in their keyframe. It's like, no, your work will be better once you learn to create a 60% looking good Roman guy and then figuring out the rest with photo bash and painting to make something that's genuinely unique.
The idea, the design, and the uniqueness are what makes a good portfolio, mostly.
So
To me, at least.
Well, obviously the execution comes into play, right?
Yeah, the execution is important, but if you execute well just boring ideas, I don't think anyone will hire you.
I will say, I think this whole thing has kind of stemmed a little bit from ArtStation. That's always been my personal analysis of it, is that when you look at ArtStation on any given day of the week, and obviously there's a million amazing pieces of work on there, but often when you look on, there's a very professional artist who's been in the industry for 20 years, and they're like, I just tried out blah, 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 asset pack. And here's some keyframes I did. And everyone goes, whoa, that's so crazy. That's so realistic. And then you see a slew of students copying exactly the same thing and being like, I created this. And,
dude, it's the same like when everyone did the Florent Reblanc tutorial.
Oh, wait, no, I want to talk about that later.
Which
Wait, Florent
No,
Leblanc.
later. That's a whole other point from that I want to talk about. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so that's not on this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so it's just that, like, people see those things on ArtStation, and then because they're seeing it from a very experienced professional, they think that's what it is to be a professional, and that is just wrong.
So I want to talk about the lack of creativity as well.
Okay.
That stems from this, but I want to specifically point out that whenever I see a portfolio that maybe lacks the finish level, but has incredible creativity, like you look at the sketches. Like the sketches are solid, like it's good technique. He can sketch really well. Maybe he can't like quite render, or he or she doesn't, whoever is applying. Whenever I see this incredible creativity and passion and interest in creating and making cool designs, I value that a lot more, and I think those portfolios are valued a lot more, especially if we're talking something more closer to like a junior level, because the actual skills of how to render things nicely, maybe how to photobash things, or how to have a maybe better value structure, those things can be taught whilst you are in the studio a lot easier than teaching someone how to have cool and interesting ideas. Those things take a lot longer time to develop, and I think with this era of like people putting in just 3D assets that they find into nice and interesting looking keyframes rather than trying to come up with like a cool concept and cool idea, I think it's because this has become popular. I think you don't see as many of those things. I personally feel like I was one of those people who didn't have the best skills when I was finishing uni, but I worked super hard to have interesting ideas. And to be honest, I feel like I had my best ideas when I was in university in terms of projects. I look back and I go like, wow, that was a cool idea, and not the best execution, but I think that was good. It helped me to come to a studio and be like, okay, how do I approach this differently? How do I do this? How do I do that? Okay, let me try to think outside the box, trying to do this, rather than just being like, oh, what asset do I use? Oh, we need to design this. Maybe I can like paste this.
This is verging into bullying at this
point. No. But hey, like, I mean, a good example is one of my colleagues is very, very creative. Actually,
danger. Okay, not that.
And
it's a compliment, not an insult. It's okay. Yeah.
And I remember seeing his portfolio, being amazed by like the cool ideas, and almost looking past sometimes. So maybe I think like the guy could render really well as well. But like what I would want to say is just like the ideas is what I was like, this is fucking awesome. Let's go.
As a way to implement that issue we have, I guess, and as a way to fix it, it might be to just really try to spend maybe more time in 2D or more time planning a bit your designs first. You might use assets if you want, but do not like force yourselves not to change your original design to fit an asset.
Yeah. At least when I'm doing mentorships with people, and usually those are like portfolio driven things, I'm always like, as few pre-built assets as possible, please, because that's how you make something cool. Anyway, next thing?
I think so.
So this is my little pet peeve. I feel like this is going to be a quick one because we talk about it every fucking episode. But, oh my God, please practice fundamentals. Please practice fundamentals. Nothing annoys me more than when I see, and this is a different type of over-reliance on 3D and other things, right? But when you see somebody who has like everything built in 3D, but then they can't paint even like 4 strokes of editing into it because they've never practiced painting, or they can't photobash something incorrectly because they don't understand light direction and rendering, or they can't sketch, or whatever it is. It's a fundamental thing that every studio will look for, because fundamentals are the greatest signifier of your kind of ability to progress, in my opinion.
Totally. And also ability to get feedback and to change stuff.
Yes.
Like if you can only do stuff in 3D and you cannot sketch on top of it or paint on top of it, and you always have to go back to 3D, and every time there's like a little change you can do it, or like if you know how to paint something and they just ask you a simple change you can do in 2D, good, do it in 2D. It's going to take you 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's something that was like a really big game changer for me was when I did, I think I spoke about it before and here, but doing the CGMA course with Michael Kuss, which did like vehicle design, and he had like, I'd already practiced perspective, but I was like, I'm done with, it was a very long time ago, but I was like, I'm done with perspective now, because I was like, I can do all of the techniques and I understand it. I aced it, and at that point I had started doing kind of vehicle designs using a bit of 3D as an underbase and stuff, very basic blocky stuff, but that's what I was doing. And when I did that course with him, he insisted from the very start, he said, I know people use 3D these days, no one's using 3D on my course. If you want to do it properly, don't do it. And so I took it seriously and I didn't do it. And that was one of the biggest, most substantial improvements I ever had, because suddenly I wasn't tracing my 3D block out anymore. I wasn't drawing over the 3D block out. I was designing over the top of it. I was able to change things because my ability and the depth of my understanding of perspective really shifted quite enormously during that time. And so because I had a greater understanding of perspective and that specific fundamental in that scenario, right, I was able to always iterate and design and change stuff because it didn't matter what I had under the base. It was always just starting point.
I think it's having good fundamentals allows you to focus on doing the thing rather than how to do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to battle on how do I make this look good, or yes, you have to, but it's more like how do I design this well rather than how do I make this paint or stroke look like the way I want to look.
Totally.
You know, I was amazed that how much 2D I had to learn once I joined the industry, and luckily I was as I was focusing on vehicles, I could do a lot of 3D as well on that, you know. So it was fine with my skill set, but over time I noticed very quickly in the company that I have to bump up my 2D skills.
Yeah.
And I started working on it from like day one, not day one, but like very quickly. I was like, okay, I have to improve 2D. And all the way until now, I've been improving my 2D and photo bashing skills. And whereas now I'm a lot more competent in photo bashing and changing things and paint over things more. And whereas before I wasn't. And so even, you know, and I still got into the industry with, but I think I had like
that's
a big,
not the moral we're trying to tell her.
I would say that it's a big bonus if you have a very
you had
strong,
good enough fundamental.
Yeah, I had good enough fundamentals, but I think it's a very good plus if you also, for example, know how to photo bash very well or know how to paint over things. It's
at the end of the day, if you know, you can get better by using XYZ 3D program. You can get better by getting better asset packs with Photo Bash. You can do all these things. But ultimately, the thing that separates the best of the best from everybody else is fundamentals. If you look at any of them, it's that they have an understanding of incredibly complex or very simple things in incredibly complex manner.
If you think about it like almost video game stats, right?
Yeah.
Each individual skills would make your like XP bar of that skill go up.
Yeah.
But if you practice fundamentals, it's going to make all the bars from all the skills goes up.
Totally. When I was first learning perspective, I was like really into character design, which is something I am so not into now. But I was really into it, and the thing that I was like doing perspective, and I was like, oh man, this is dumb. But some professional had recommended that I do it, and I went and did Scott Robertson's book, and I was like, this is just for doing vehicles and whatever. I started doing it, and the second I finished that book, all of my characters improved because I understood 3D forms suddenly. And even though I understood it at a low level, because that was like, you know, 6 months into learning perspective, it was a massive shift. It's when you learn these like fundamentals properly, it's the biggest improvement you can have, and you need to be able to show that you can do those in your portfolio. So yeah,
Totally.
What's your pet peeve, Jules?
Something I see quite a lot is people that would show very old work, or that they're going to show a very like too much work with a lot of inequality.
Yeah, 100 pieces portfolio.
Yeah,
where the last 99 all look awful.
Yeah. And like you know, like maybe 4 of them are like from 5 years ago, and like only 2 of them are from this year, and obviously the 2 of them from this year are going to be way better.
Yeah.
So this is very confusing, especially for someone who's going to hire you, because they don't know what's your real value. Like, is he going to be able, or is she going to be able to reach this design or quality skill to all the paintings, or is it going to be as shown at the portfolio currently 2 images out of 10? I
mean, there's the famous adage, which is you're always judged by your worst piece of work.
Yeah.
Right?
What do you think if a student goes, well, I want to show my progress that I've improved? What if they have that thought,
So,
you know?
so I think that one of the reasons I managed to enter the industry was because I did show my progress, right? But I think the way that I did that was that I showed my progress to the people who mattered, and then to everybody else, I was just updating my portfolio, right? So like, by retaining contacts in the industry.
Yeah, but your portfolio was also good enough. They didn't hire you for your progress. They hired you for your current skill.
I think the only time that progress matters is, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think the only time progress matters really, progress always matters, but the only time showing progress matters is for yourself. so that you can look back and feel good about what you've done and, be like, hey, yeah, I've improved. Because there's often that thing of being an artist where you feel like you've stagnated permanently. And
it matters only if you've already been to someone.
Yeah, that's what I'm
If
saying.
you go
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
Because if you're like, oh, look how good I am and look how shit I used to be, they're like,
Yeah, exactly.
Why,
I think that's the.
why would you ever show me
Yeah.
how bad you were? I mean, each of us was very bad at some point.
I can actually
and
say,
if we look back at our work in maybe 10 years, we will think that we're very bad now.
I do have one maybe minor exception to this, but I wouldn't really recommend doing it. I personally went from really, really bad to professional level in 2 years. And I will say that one of the things that got people interested in me, not I think in my job, but like that kind of helped me make friends in the industry almost, because people were impressed by it, was being like, here was my work a year ago. And I remember so many people used to, add me on Discord or Instagram because it was a really interesting conversation point for them to see, I guess, the kind of progress that usually happens over multiple years.
What did you do? How did you do it?
I just worked really hard for 2 years.
No, I'm not asking.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
right,
thinking
right, yeah.
people asking you.
That was the kind of thing, yeah. So it was
What
interesting.
magic did you do, Daniel?
I made a deal with Satan.
No,
But-
it's just talent. All the concept artists are just talent. It's not hard work, guys. It's just talent.
Can I finish
You
my
became
point?
you became an angel.
He became talented.
But the thing was, it was a good way to make friends with people in the industry because it was interesting for people in the industry to see somebody making what was usually 3 years of progress in a year. And there was actually, I will say this because it's something that I often show to students. There is one particular image in my portfolio of a golden roofed castle in the snow, which is something I did on Aaron Liminick's CGMA course. And that was a really kind of big image for me that when I finished, a lot of people really liked it. And it was one of the first ones that did well on ArtStation for me and stuff. But coincidentally, and this was not done on purpose, exactly a year before, even pretty much down to like, I think it was posted within 3 days of each other within a year, I had done another keyframe of a golden topped castle on a snowy mountain. And the difference between those two images was totally astronomical.
Was that random or did you purposely redo it?
No, it was random. But once I realized it was there, it was something that during those like maybe that like year that I was like, this was one of my pieces in my portfolio, I always showed it to people and it always got a reaction. So maybe that's the one exception. But generally, if you're applying for a job, you shouldn't be showing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So in your portfolio, it shouldn't be there.
Yeah. Also, you're hired because you're professional, right? You don't want to be like, it's like saying I'm so young, like for my age I'm so good.
Yeah,
or,
that is such a pet
or like
peeve
or
of
like
mine.
all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, surely you don't want to come across as someone not competent enough, which can be competent. You want to you kind of just come across as a competent guy whose portfolio is competent.
Yes.
It doesn't matter how bad you were before or how much you improved. I guess, yes, as a conversation with friends or to kind of show off at events, that kind of stuff is great, right? But to get hired,
of course it shouldn't be. Yeah, I totally agree. Not in your portfolio. Your portfolio should be your best work. I think one thing that often stops people from doing that is that they get really attached to work that they made.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not producing a lot of work, something that you made 5 years ago might actually be like hold a special place in your heart. But you have to kind of be just brutal. That phrase like kill your darlings is a really big thing in art.
Totally.
And if you have 20 images in there, if you have 20 images in your portfolio right now and you're looking for a job, go in there and cut it down to the 5 best. And not just images, but projects.
5, you think? No, that's it.
I had
maybe
5, I think I had 6 projects in my portfolio when I applied to work. The only thing is there were probably about 100 images in those projects overall.
Yeah.
Because I used to do very expensive projects.
I'd say that if you do a character design and then you redo another character design and it's way better, by that I mean that it really changes the quality, then remove the other one. Like, don't keep... I mean, it's good to have many times the same quality. I think that's important to show that you can consistently have the same quality bar.
Yeah.
But if you have 3 designs, if 3 character design or 3 environment design, and the 4th one you have is just way below the others, then just remove it. There's no point to keep
I think it's always about just having the best stuff.
I think I had I'm just going through my portfolio. Since
I was wondering what you were doing over there. I thought you were texting during the podcast.
No. I was trying to find the image. I was trying to find the image that you said. I didn't find it. You can show me later. the castle. I know the castle with Iron
I know.
Living, but I don't know the other.
Can we edit it into the YouTube video? If it's there, Jules made the effort. If not, bad comments at Jules.
But I'm looking at my project. So I actually had projects that were not the quality bar that I had in the last 2 or 3 projects, but they had way better design skills. So like in those, so the projects that were lower quality in my portfolio had so many cool ideas that I think the design skill that you could forget, that you could like say, oh, it's okay.
Yes, it needs to add value, right?
Yeah.
Like, I also have my portfolio has something that I did before getting a job, but it adds value to my portfolio because I haven't done something similar now, and it's still the quality of it still is good enough because it's not exactly the same stuff I do, like the cartoony military characters kind of thing. And these are, well, like even a year before I got to my first job, but they still add value to my portfolio and they still have interesting design.
I think that's also it's very different when you're in the industry, having a portfolio versus being outside of the industry. When you're in the industry, let's say that you did have a whole bunch of really bad work in your portfolio. If you have 20 years of experience, it comes with that caveat of, well, they have 20 years of experience, so they are a professional. And the second you're in, I think you can treat your portfolio very differently. But yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Anyway, so next thing, Steph, do I need to show you the note? Okay, I'm holding my phone over to him.
I think Daniel, appreciate it.
So just tell us this note off the top of your head, please.
Having too many different styles, no consistency, totally not reading from notes. So having
What a great.
Tell us about this natural thought you had.
Too many styles, no consistency.
That's it. Yeah.
I think
Dot.
what?
It was on the notes. I don't know. Just
No. So I think sometimes. To be honest, I don't remember. I don't think I've ever seen a portfolio like that. But I'm sure
I definitely have.
You guys surely had. When someone would have a realistic project, a very, very stylized project, and then a project that's like, I don't know, anime. Yeah, let's say anime project, or then
Jules just pulled the most disgusted face when he said anime.
No. Okay. Sorry. Just one thing. Is there any serious portfolio?
Yeah.
Where it's good to put in any anime.
Yeah, sure. If you're applying for Persona 5.
It's funny.
Okay, yeah.
It's funny because
but other than
wait,
anime style
just-
projects,
just-
is it
Well,
ever
whether you-
going to be a good thing?
No, that's like saying, is it a good idea to put abstract art in a non-abstract art
Let me just-
portfolio, isn't it?
So many people, I don't know, like there's so many anime stuff.
Marcus, when he applied to Shark Mob, I don't know if you consider this anime. I want to ask you about it.
Is that a podcast thing?
Well, he had it's on his ArtStation.
Got it.
What do you mean? There's no NDA. He had something that's like somewhat like anime, like this kind of stuff.
I see what you mean.
I mean, it's really cool. Like
But
cool ass project. Cool
Yeah,
ass
it's more
characters.
cool than. Okay, what?
Well, it's not. If
So
it's
I'm
you,
not-
So what I'm
overcritical.
saying is, when you're saying anime, you don't mean like a cool character in an anime style. You mean just
means
a pretty,
generic.
like a generic,
like the-
anime pretty girl, right? That's what we're
the
talking
cliche
about.
anime stuff.
Yes. So I think there is sometimes a space for a
Well,
cool
look,
character design.
when you're creating a portfolio, part of the choice that you have to make is, especially when you're trying to get into the industry, if you're applying for Naughty Dog versus you're applying for, like we said, Persona 5. Well, if you have an anime portfolio, you're not going to get into Naughty Dog, but you'd have a great chance of getting onto Persona 5, whatever studio that is. So that's definitely part of the equation. I think one of the problems with when you have a really overly varied portfolio in terms of styles, number one, aren't many companies that look for that in terms of like an illustration agency might, but in terms of concept art, usually you're working in one style for years, right? So a games project will take like 3 to 4 years to finish.
Especially games, I think.
Yeah.
Games, the style is very important. You might
And in film, there's a general style that
Yeah.
pretty much every studio uses.
quite realistic.
Quite realistic, and then there's variants in like I'm a bit more painterly than you in the way that my
There's
work
variants
looks, right?
into the Agvis level a little.
Yeah, right, yeah. Sorry, when I said that my work is more painterly, I meant I turned the sliders up more. Yeah, I've never actually touched a paintbrush.
There is no skills.
Yeah.
Just like this and prompts.
Yeah, but I think the thing is when you have a portfolio, like let's say, I think a very realistic example you might see is somebody who's trying to transition from mobile games to, for example, films or AAA games. Mobile games generally has quite a cutesy style. It doesn't mean that it's not good work. I think there's loads of really great artists in mobile games
Totally,
who
yeah.
often get like very sadly overlooked, I think, just because people are like, oh, it's cute, so it doesn't matter. But, you know, I don't think
It's like
that's the
people
case.
who know how to render any kind of material.
Right, exactly,
Like,
yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah.
But if you're trying to
it's
get
insane.
into Call of Duty, right, Activision or something, and that's your portfolio, and you have that plus Activision style work, that's too many styles. That's a very specific example where it's just going to confuse whoever is looking at your portfolio.
And they want to hire you because they know you're going to enjoy working on something.
yes.
yeah,
totally.
they'll be like, does he enjoy this? Does he
Yeah,
enjoy
like
it?
what?
They won't know.
I mean, your example is very, very strong. Like there's this extreme difference where you
Right.
should. But still, if you have, I think what Stefan said is that if you have one piece of each, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like one realistic, one cartoony, one is going to be like vehicle art surface. The other one is going to be a creature, but all in the
Very different
style.
I mean, let's say like, okay, I can think of some portfolios that I've seen where you might have one product that's mobile game style, one that's like Blizzard World of Warcraft style,
Oh, yeah.
another, then you have like a Riot splash image they tried to do, then you have like 2 photoreal matte paintings they attempted, and often the thing is as well, the reality is if you're trying all these styles, usually it doesn't land. You can't usually hit all these styles
Yeah,
successfully.
even in a junior portfolio, it's quite difficult to be good at one style.
Oh, yeah.
Like you have to be good ideally, to get a job, you have to be good like at least at one style. But oh my gosh, if you're trying many styles, it's almost zero chance.
Pick your-
You'll be like mid, not very good at anything, and then it's just not gonna be good for you. I would say.
Choose your fight. You don't want to fight with
Yeah.
5 people at the same time. You want to fight with one.
And you're already then you're already fighting about being a generalist or a specialist. So.
Oh my gosh! What if someone wants to do all these styles? You think it's
If you want to do all these styles,
It's going to take time.
well, no, I think here's the thing, right? If you want to do all these styles, okay, sure, but in terms of a portfolio, if you were applying to a mobile games company, you better have a style that's consistent with mobile games, and the same for whatever else you're applying for. So in terms of portfolios, if we're just purely talking about portfolios, you need to have a portfolio that's consistent with what you're applying for. You can't go too far out of the
They
zone.
need to be tailored. So like if you're insanely good at cartoony mobile game stuff and Call of Duty realistic stuff, then I would say either you have 2 portfolios or you adapt your portfolio whenever you're sending it.
Yes, usually 2 portfolios, I think, is the answer.
yeah.
Cool. Next thing. Unless anyone's got anything else to say about that? Stefan looks angry about it still.
Well, no, I'm just thinking like if there's maybe I don't know. I think it's just very difficult to have many good styles very successful. I was just thinking like what other like would there be maybe like Love, Death and Robots, right? Like those projects but they're usually done. But
there's
there's not one
different
studio.
teams of
it's a different
artists.
Also,
studio.
I mean, that said, I think it's important to try styles.
Sure.
Just to know what you like.
Yeah.
I've tried many styles and I was very bad at most of them.
If you scroll down my Instagram like 2 years ago, you're going to see pretty much exactly what I just described. It being like a World of Warcraft attempt, a Riot attempt.
So you need to try stuff to know if you like it or you don't like it, right? So it's important to try stuff. It's important to make mistakes. But when you feel like you're good enough and you want to get in the industry and it's time to make hopefully your hireable portfolio, then it's something that becomes very important.
When I was in uni, I only was like I'm only doing realistic, and I think I don't even know if I ever did a stylist project, but once I finished uni, I did do as a freelance a little bit of stylist work, and I did like a piece that I was very very happy with, and it's a work that I will probably never show because my portfolio is realistic portfolio, and
I know which one you're talking about.
but it's I don't know. It was just a quick work that I was commissioned to do for a few weeks, and it was super challenging, and I realized that I would rather not do it, and I wanted to, and I'm glad I tried it, and I'm glad I had my moments over it, but I was like, this is impossible. I'm glad I solved it and I did a good job with it, but I also realized Okay, no.
I, I,
That's just
I
not-
also went
not-
some point in a very cartoonish Blizzard vibe.
Mm-hmm.
I think you as well. No, you went.
I've tried everything.
Yeah. And it's so funny now to look back at those because it's, like, because I guess we kind of identify ourselves with our work,
Yeah.
because that's I guess that's part of being
I
doing
think that-
art.
I think
it's
it's-
very funny to see those old pieces which are like nothing to do, and obviously these are away from my portfolio.
I think the thing that's funny about it is that looking back at those now, I realize that actually with my new skill set, I would be way more likely to be able to make that work now than I ever was back then. Yeah, because ultimately I improved other things.
Acvis.
But Acvis, yeah. Anyway, so this is my next pet peeve.
Interesting, Daniel.
Thank you. Let me tell you this off the dome.
Ooh.
It's no iteration, and goddamn does that shit annoy me. It's I cannot tell you how many portfolios I've seen where
man-
somebody. No, I swear to God, dude. I'm
Man,
gonna-
I just get a design straight away. Please.
yeah. Oh Jesus Christ. It's not genuine.
It's amazing from the start.
Nothing
Every
annoys
time
me
I do
more.
iteration, I go back to my first one.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I've had so many conversations with people where they're like, I designed XYZ thing, and I'm like, oh cool. So what was the process of design? And they're like, oh, this is it. And it's just like the one image, and I'm like, okay. Or the other one is they say to me, oh yeah, I did have a design process actually, and then they show me like a napkin with like an ink blot on it, and they're like, yeah, that was my process, and I was like, right. And okay, let me just explain, because
Very useful when you work in
Right.
a company, right?
that you've hit the nail on the head. That's why it's annoying, because a portfolio is for a professional pursuit, right? Actually, if you look at my portfolio now as a professional, there is plenty of work where I have not iterated that hard. Actually, on some of them, I've iterated hard behind the scenes and done this and that. But there's definitely work where I've just done like a few designs, or I've just done something quick for fun. But
Iteration is very. No one likes it. I think.
I like it.
I don't really like it.
That's because that's your problem, baby.
I'm just not satisfied
wow.
with stuff that I do until I
Yeah.
iterate a lot on
Yeah.
it. It's just the
I
nature of
agree. Because you have to know if you've reached the best result.
Yeah, totally.
it. Yeah, you're like,
Do you know what Jules?
tried this so many times, and you go, well, I guess.
Do you know what Jules is saying? Jules is saying that when he was going like, oh yeah, I always just go back to my first design. That's just him. He was just
That's just what I do all the time.
yeah. But I mean,
All right.
You know what? Not even. I just finish it and then I pretend. Like I go back to sketching and I do like, oh, let's just add another weird ones just to put it back on the.
I've
front.
seen people do that.
I'm
as
sure.
well.
Yeah, I'm sure. People.
I mean, yeah, it's just amazing to me, because I think especially during the period of concept art where we all kind of came up, where it was like that very Fengzu heavy, like this is how you do concept art, and all of those guys who were famous during that time. It was all about design, all about iterating, all about showing stuff.
cool ideas.
Yeah, and it was like, and then now suddenly I am given a deluge of portfolios every month where don't have a single piece of iteration in the portfolio, and it drives me insane, because that is most of the job in concept art, is iterating on stuff. And to go back to the thing about like the napkin blot sketches, right? It's cool to do sketches for yourself, but you have to be able to show sketches to client. You have to be able to do clean, presentable, and on-time iterations, whether that means that you're doing 3D designs, which is something that's required, sketches, which is something that's required, paintings, whatever it is, you've got to be able to do it. And if you can't show that you can do it in a portfolio, you are unhireable, in my opinion. I would never hire somebody who does not show iteration.
Yeah, I agree.
It's
It's
very tough
important.
to.
Now it doesn't mean you need 100 variations, right? Like I think if you can show
Yeah, I think
a good, if you can show a strong 5-6 variations, maybe even 4,
Well,
it's already much better than 0. And
yeah,
and if
sure.
all of these variations are good variations, that's great. I very rarely show more than, I would very rarely in my career have shown, or I've seen people show more than 10 variations.
well,
I know.
let me
we
tell
know
you,
stuff,
Jules,
yeah.
I have on multiple projects done at least, I have done on multiple projects over 100 variations on
but
singular things.
Was that because that's your way of doing it, or is that because
That's because
what
that was
they
a
were
client
waiting?
expectation. But that is all the more reason. But that's what I'm saying. So I have done personal work where that's been the case. So I put some stuff on Instagram recently, which was some like little speeder sketches and stuff, and I put a selection of the ones that I liked just because I liked them. That was meant to be for a larger project, but I kind of grew tired of it. I really enjoyed doing all those iterations. But the reason that I think it's important to show that, for example, with that project, I can do a lot of iterations is because there have been projects at work, right, which is where these portfolios are meant to go, where I have done hundreds of iterations for exactly the same thing. I've done, in some days.
I never did that.
Well,
Maybe the max. Actually, it's not like the other day. I've been doing a few, right? Quite a few. Sometimes 20 about that, but never hundreds.
what, across the whole project?
Like design iterations where you really show like things which are completely different, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, not completely different, but different.
So we're not talking about like getting feedback and you changing.
No, I'm talking about doing. Right. I am talking about.
Are you talking professional work now or personal?
Professional.
Oh, professional.
So
I am talking about getting feedback. Yeah, where like over.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah.
so
many
then
times I got many feedback. No. So to me, iteration is like, okay, please give us, like 20 different ideas for
Right,
that.
but then when you get feedback
for
from
me,
the
that's
client,
iteration.
but when you get feedback from the client and you do the next round of stuff, that is iteration. That's what you're showing your portfolio when you iterate. That is the by dictionary definition of iteration. And the fact that is like commonplace on projects. Like there have been projects where I've had to do 50 vehicle designs in one day, all of different variations of the vehicle, right? And if you can't show in your portfolio that you can do 10 iterations of a vehicle, then how are you going to get hired for that job? So that's why it is so important to show that you can do iteration. And I know you were saying that like, doing 5 is better than doing 0. But in my opinion, the best way to do it is to have a pyramid of iteration, right? So you start at the bottom with the loosest, but still client ready sketches. Maybe you do, for example, for a spaceship, right? You do 20 spaceship designs, all from 3/4, right? Which are the lowest level of showable quality. Then you narrow that down to 5 designs, and then you narrow that down to 2 designs, and then you do your final design, because that is very, very often the process that professionals follow.
That's so many, man.
Right, and that's how you get a job, though.
What did you say?
That's so many iterations.
Isn't that many? I don't know. I have used to have a very, very chaotic process with this.
do you get to do a lot of iterations at work? Because I feel like what Daniel and myself do, we're gonna do less iterations.
I mean, I've done.
We're gonna do endless amount of feedback. All right.
That is iterations, though. Unless you're getting semantic about the word.
No, because you don't. No, because feedback, you apply the feedback. Right?
Yeah, but then
so you don't
you
don't need to be creative about feedback.
No, I totally disagree, because when I get feedback from a client where they say, I'm sending like, let's say for example I'm doing explosion VFX, right, or something, which is different, right, but it's still something that requires a lot of iteration. I do 10 explosions or 20. So, all right, on Doctor Strange, I think I can talk about this. Maybe I shouldn't talk about this. Anyway, I'm going to talk about something different. But let's say that I was doing
weird
medicine. Weird medicine, man. I was doing like magic effects. I started off by doing 30 different effects. Then they picked out 6 that they like, and they wanted iterations on those. So then I did like 10 different iterations based on those 6, and then from that another 10 where they picked 3 that they liked, and then from another 2 that they picked they did another 6, and then they picked 1 that they liked, but then they wanted 10 iterations of that one. By the end of that, I had probably done easily over 100 iterations. I think I probably did like close to 200 individual frames for that.
That's insane.
So if you count the feedback as well,
I am definitely counting the feedback,
which I wouldn't call it that way, but anyway.
But it's iterating.
It's fine.
Your iterating is where you are creating variations of
in
design.
terms of a portfolio, it's so different. I think it just iterating is just showing it's presenting to the client different stuff. Then the client is picking some, and then you apply what the client is asking.
But a portfolio is a faux version of that.
I agree. I think in a portfolio you need to be able to show that you can do the work, and to show that you can do the work.
Stefan, high five. Thank you.
No, but I agree on that as well. I'm just saying
high
that.
five as well.
I'm just saying that the client feedback is a different process than you being with yourself.
Maybe it is slightly different, but in a portfolio, the best way to show it
that you can respond to client feedback is to do it with yourself.
Totally.
Yeah, and did you want to say something, or I just want to
go for it.
So with games, for example, I did iterate quite a bit. So,
yeah.
And oh my gosh, there's some things that I iterate so much on. But I think you guys iterate a lot, so it doesn't really matter. So
I think
I
VFX
shouldn't
you
be
iterate
complaining
the
either.
most.
And with designs, I used to have a very messy process with design until I stared at Daniel's work so much that Daniel told me that is the right way to do designs. I think Daniel has some good examples.
Daniel told me.
No, but I learned a lot from Dan, and he has some good examples of like design iteration on his personal projects, specifically, I think. And I've been kind of taking that and learning from it. But design iteration does also include having a very good process, but sometimes you can iterate with different things, right? So sometimes I have done things where I'll be asked to do a 3D model, right? And then I would be showing it, and then I would realize that the people, like the clients, let's say, it doesn't matter who they are, the directors, blah, blah, they are looking at it and they are not fully understanding what they need to focus on. So then I would do a super basic sketch, because they'll be like, well, we are not focusing on this part.
Right.
We're not focusing whether this texture is looking right. We are focusing on the design of it.
Yeah.
So then I would go back, think about it, and do like a super simplified sketch. And I think that's something that also comes under iteration in the portfolio, is to show that I can iterate on this thing in different contexts. I can iterate on it maybe in 3D. I can iterate in black and white. I can do a rough sketch of it. I can work around this design problem through multiple angles and solve it.
You can come up with solutions in many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately like a portfolio is a place where you're shadow boxing, right? You're not in the ring. You're not actually fighting, but you're showing that, hey, look, I can do all the forms correctly. I can hit the bag right, and I can do all this. So yes, it is different to having a client, obviously, but you're saying in this scenario, I'm the client, and you're showing that you have critical thinking abilities to go through stuff. Anyway, next thing, Julian, the thing that you hate the most.
The thing I hate the most, I guess.
Oh, don't say it, Jules. You'll get us banned.
Another issue with many portfolios is just presentation, poor presentation, poor structure, just very messy. Like, it's not too hard to spend a bit of time to, especially if you have iteration, for example, or just talk about, or if you have a character concept with some design sheets next to it, just make it look a bit presentable. You don't need to go full on crazy
perfect design,
designed image, because that tends to have a bit of a student vibe to me. Like, usually when it's too designed, it tends to look a bit too much like I'm trying to have a job. But when it's too messy as well, it's just, if you don't want people to look twice, to be like, oh, what is that?
It should all be clear, readable, and obvious.
ABC your iteration as well is very important, I think. Like, it's
what?
What's ABC?
It means like number.
Oh, sorry. Oh man, I was so confused there. I was like, wow, is this some like secret fundamental I've never heard of?
The secret ABC. No, I think it's very good to show that you basically think that the portfolio reviewer or whoever is going to look at portfolio is the client.
Yeah,
because that's what you're going to send to a client.
Yeah.
So it's going to be nice, clean image with, I don't know, just if you iterate, you have some structure, so someone can go back to you and be like, oh, I like the version C,
Everything should be, I mean, it's that whole thing of like, keep it simple, stupid, right? It's like, I should never have to ask about anything. It should all be laid out in front of me in a very obvious way. And I should never have to hunt for something. I've seen some portfolios where they did so much iteration and they filled out they placed it all so like weirdly, essentially, and like they gave like like the crappiest like little silhouette sketches, like 4 pages in their portfolio. God. And it's like, and this is like one project. There was one specific example where I saw a portfolio where the post was so long. This was one post on ArtStation that multiple people who saw it all saw different parts of the project because different bits of it were loading in.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was such a massive project. So I was talking to somebody and they were like, oh, did you see that dinosaur project that like blah, blah, blah did? And I was like, no. I was like, I thought it was a character project. And then somebody else was like, I thought it was a prop project. And then we went and spoke to the person and they were like, it's all of those. And I was like, well, I didn't see that. And the other person was like, I didn't see that. I didn't see that. And it was just because it was so bloated.
How
And
massive was that? I want to see.
it was very, very big.
Also, our station is quite tricky for that because you really want to put the best images on top.
Yeah,
I have specific stuff about our station, I
Yeah,
would say. Yeah.
because yeah, go for it.
with the iteration, we also don't mean put up all your iteration sketches, right? Like we just
No,
mean,
no, please
we put
don't.
out, just show that you can iterate, put the good sketches that people understand, maybe the more successful ones, and then that's it. you know?
Put things like client ready. I one of the things with ArtStation, because ArtStation obviously, look, maybe I personally would like a replacement for ArtStation to pop up because I'm not a fan of all their policies, but nothing has popped up as of yet. Like you have alternatives like Kara and like Art.io and stuff, but none of them are really there yet, in my opinion. So for now, ArtStation is the way to go, and I think future portfolio sites are going to copy them.
And it's mostly where recruiters are.
Yes, of course, yeah. And I think one of the things that annoys me in ArtStation is when somebody does a project, let's say it's called like Project X, Land of the Dinosaurs or whatever, and they have like 3 posts about Project X, Land of the Dinosaurs, which only include like 3 images per post and could all be put into one post together. Or I've seen portfolios where they have Project X, Land of the Dinosaurs, but it isn't demarcated clearly. And so you go through stuff and you're like, okay, so this is Project X, this is Project X. And then you go to the 4th project and it stylistically looks similar. And you're not sure if it's part of Project X, Land of the Dinosaurs, or if it's part of Project Y, Land of the Vampires.
Oh, God.
And you're just confused because it's all not there. So, make sure that everything is clear, especially on ArtStation. Lots of people like to, like farm likes essentially by being like, oh, I'm going to spread out this 10 post ArtStation project and then I'm going to get 10 times the likes. Number 1, you won't. Number 2, it becomes incredibly unclear and unreadable. When you have a project, put it in a project folder. When you have a different project, put it in a different project. And that's it. You should have 5, if you're a student, 5 to 6 projects at the top of your ArtStation, all of which are good, and that's it.
You can have more if they bring more stuff, but if they don't bring anything more, and just kill.
Yeah, but don't spread out your project.
Yeah,
is
yeah,
what
yeah.
I'm saying.
Totally.
Daniel's saying like if I do one post per project,
Yeah.
on ArtStation,
Yeah,
way
yeah.
easier. Or like maybe
totally.
maybe
That
if the
would be
project
weird.
is split into like you have tons of characters and then you have tons of vehicles, maybe you can split those up.
Yes, but at that point, I always think like
It needs to make sense. Like
Yeah, it needs to make
vehicles,
sense.
characters, environments.
I think the thing is like I have seen
And you
projects
need
like
to
that
label it clearly on ArtStation
Very,
as well,
very,
very,
very
clearly.
And the image you choose as well.
for the thumbnail.
Yeah,
thumbnail.
like in the
That
thumbnail,
needs to
maybe
be-
you
That needs to be
label
at you really need to maybe ask your friends what's the
Coolest one.
coolest one.
Yeah. And you need like a logo there or something for that project, which is consistent across all the posts.
Yeah.
If you want to do that. I think often though, when I do see projects that are like, 3 posts about like one's about vehicles, one's about characters. Often those are again like very, very bloated posts where it's like loads and loads of silhouettes. And Seven just showed me my own portfolio
Yeah,
and pointed
showed
at
you
it.
that you
And
did that.
I don't know what he's trying to show me.
You did it in Wildlands.
Right, but so the Wildlands one, there's like 100 images in that project alone. So
Yeah.
well, maybe not 100. There's
But
a
I'm
lot.
saying
It's like 50 images in there, maybe.
You labeled it clearly, right? So like,
Yeah.
it's well done.
Yeah, each one has the keyframe that was reticent for like that part of the project. It has the Wildlands logo across the top, and they're all placed next to each
Yeah.
other as well. I've seen some. This is beyond me. I've seen some where they have Project X Dinosaur Land. And then in between the 3 posts of Project X Dinosaur Land, they have 3 other projects all like interlaced in between. And I'm like, wow, could you make this any more confusing?
But I made it in the timeline.
Yeah,
This is how
yeah,
it was
yeah.
made, man. And you're like, okay.
Yeah. Also
Doesn't
try
make
maybe
sense,
to
dude.
what would you say? Would you put the best one at the? You start with the best one and you
Yes.
finish with another very good one, or
No, I
you just
always
go gradually.
I think it should always be a gradient from best to worst.
But then the recruiter is gonna
What, projects?
is gonna end up with the worst one,
well, number one,
and
there
the worst
shouldn't-
one is gonna stay on the screen
okay,
the
but
longest.
number one, there shouldn't be anything bad in your portfolio,
Yeah.
right? That's the first
Yeah.
thing that we were saying, like about cutting down your portfolio to only the best stuff. But number 2, I always think I can't remember who told it to me. I think it was somebody at university told me, a tutor. They were like, yeah, you want to end on a high note, but if you don't start on a good note, no one's listening.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
So I always think most recruiters probably don't get to the end of a portfolio. They might skip through the first 5 pages and then be done with it. And a lot of people are going to judge you by those first 5 pages anyway.
The 3 first ones needs to be very,
chef's kiss. Yeah.
Because if the third one, if the second one is a bit worse and the third one is already a bit worse, then you want to see the fourth one is going to be a bit worse.
Yeah. So yeah, you need to start strong for sure.
Yeah.
And I personally don't think it's a big deal how you end necessarily.
And what would you guys tend to?
Are we saying on ArtStation right now?
Yeah.
Oh well, I think this also counts for portfolios.
Yeah. We're talking PDF portfolios. I just want to clarify.
It's just that
what we talking about.
ArtStation, everyone will know how to use it. Everyone will just click on the link.
Yeah.
It's easy. It most of the time doesn't have issues. It's a constant. You're sure people will use.
Can I
You
say,
don't want someone to have to download the PDF. Sometimes it's very heavy.
okay, but
it's
sometimes you do have to send them, and I just wanted to say for PDF specifically, please design your PDFs with consistent graphic design. That is also something that really annoys me. If I see like it starts off in gray and then the next project has like a completely different font in red and it's all arranged a different way and the background color is different, please don't do that.
graphic design is my passion.
Yeah.
You know the meme?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it all has like Comic Sans font everywhere.
Yeah.
But ArtStation is great because it's a consistent place to show off your work. So make sure that when you're doing a PDF, it's also a consistent place to show off your work. I have one more thing I have one more pet peeve. I know we're dragging on a little bit, but I have one more thing.
more and then-
one more thing. And then I'm going to go to bed.
One more is when the podcast lasts too long.
But this is one we can all agree on.
Yeah.
Is when you see projects which are too closely following tutorials that have been online.
Yeah.
And like
my
Stefan said at
gosh.
the start of the podcast, the Florent Lebron tutorial.
I forgot about this.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it the whole time. But yeah, there was that. For example, the Florent Lebron tutorial is a classic example of somebody coming out with a really cool like little tech demo essentially of like how to do displacement rocks in Blender and stuff and how to do this and that when Blender was getting popular.
I don't even know
Can
which
you-
tutorial
can
we're
you-
talking about.
Well, that's fine. You don't.
Can
okay.
you tell?
Sorry, go on.
Can you tell the project? Can you tell the project where I learned how to do it?
Your Lava Dog project, probably.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's not like super obvious, right? It's not. It doesn't look like the tutorial because I looked at the tutorial and I was like, if I release another image of like
This?
Yeah.
Yeah.
if I release another image like that, like what Florent Lebrun did with his rocks, then
Florent Lebrun, please.
How do you say it?
Florent Lebrun.
Florent Lebrun.
It sounds like there's no syllables in that
Florent
name.
It's just French.
So Florent Lebrun.
Florent Lebrun.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Florent Lebrun. At least that's
I think
how
me and you gotta say Florent Lebron.
Florent
hard as he-
Lebrun.
Florent Lebrun.
Florent, if you're listening, we love you.
Yeah.
Great work. Keep it up.
Butchering your name.
So yeah, so many people did that project, and then there
Jammers
was the-
tutorials.
Jammers tutorials, and
Jammers
Do you
is-
remember the Danner Warrior?
Oh, I still see people copying that tutorial that
Yeah.
Dana did,
With
man.
the room.
Yeah.
I've seen
the
that
Last
room.
of Us.
There is a thing you don't wanna like. You go to a portfolio and you go that tutorial, that tutorial, that
Yeah.
tutorial, that tutorial.
That is
that tutorial.
such a
It's
massive
it's
red flag.
Yeah, it's like
I've seen-
okay,
I've
so
seen a
are
lot
you
of
copying
the-
a tutorial or can you actually do it by yourself? Like I don't understand.
What's the guy from Naughty Dog? Also French. Super good.
Agoston? Balazar Agoston?
No.
Is he still at
Romain
Naughty
Gendreau?
Dog?
Romain Gendreau, yeah.
Sorry,
that guy
Romain
as well.
Gendreau.
That guy as well.
Romain
He's
Gendreau.
insanely
Oh my
talented.
Yeah.
He also has a tutorial on Lens Square, which
Yeah.
is a great tutorial. But I've seen people
So many.
like it looks exactly like what he did.
Yeah.
Same color, same thing, same glowy elements. I guess it's probably a good thing to learn,
I think.
but you don't want
I
to
think
use it as a main
I somehow
selling
have
point.
a feeling that with Romain's to copy Romain's work, it takes a bit more skill to just
Because you're saying that the 3D ones, you're following a specific 3D process
exactly.
that's like directly
So
replicated.
with
what-
Romain's, you are replicating the style,
Yeah.
but you're still doing
Yeah.
a different image. At
Yeah.
least that's
But
the ones.
anyway,
that I've
the
seen.
point is,
like I haven't
though-
seen more Monkey Castle images that look like Romain's work.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I've just seen like, oh, this kind of looks like Romain's like
The
samurai
Monkey Castle
work.
is so
Yeah. But this looks like Romain's samurai work, but it's a totally different angle. It's
Yeah.
lit. You still, like when you're copying like a certain mood, oh my gosh, it helps you so much. Like trying to come up with your own lighting situations. I had to do that recently on a project, and it's so tough. But,
Using my
still.
brain.
I really actually gives you like actual thinking.
I'm not gonna lie, I was sitting there, I was like, that's like most of my job is coming up with like unique lighting situations for keyframes. But anyway, yeah, I mean, when you can tell, I will say this as well. Me and Danny Chan, who's a brilliant artist, we did a lecture at a university. I can't remember, honestly. I don't know where it was. We did a lecture at a university, which was great. And we did like common portfolio mistakes for students, it was kind of this roughly. And we also tackled this at the end. And to nail home the point, I actually went onto ArtStation, and it was at the time that Jammer's Blender Basics tutorial had come out, where he did the Jabba's Hut Palace thing in the desert.
Oh yeah.
And I went and found every image on ArtStation which had directly copied that from the tutorial, and I found a lot of them. And I found some artists as well. I was so surprised, very professional artists who even did it in their portfolios. And guys, just don't do it. Everybody can follow a tutorial. If you want to follow it and make something, then make something unique that uses the skill set you've learned.
Tackle it the same ways you would tackle assets from online assets, right?
Yeah, sure.
So have your own idea, and then use the new techniques to make your idea.
Yes.
Don't make an idea to fit the new techniques.
Yeah. Is there anything else anybody wants to talk about, or we're done so?
I think we're done.
We're done so? Okay, well, that's going to be the end for today's episode. We really hope you enjoyed listening. And if you want more, please feel free to subscribe and hit the bell notification, and also like, because I need that mental support. We release episodes every 2 weeks. And if you want any more additional information about the podcast or the event, please be sure to check out our Instagram link in the description below. Thank you again, and we'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye.